Hello and welcome along to our first ever Box to Box. Of course, joining me on the sofa, who else would it be other than the absolutely gorgeous Sophia de Stefano? How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm very excited to bring you guys the first show about football and boxing.
I know.
And I've had quite a busy day today because I have been...
Basically stealing stuff from people's gyms.
Well, stealing's quite a strong word, Kiri. I've been ram-raiding Anthony Joshua's gym, and he very kindly gave us these belts that, Troy, you've become quite attached to that one.
Yeah. So just to introduce on the sofa, we've got Kevin Mitchell. He is joining us, and we'll be talking to him a little bit later on. The gorgeous Emma Story, and yes, the robber himself, Troy Townsend. Anthony Joshua, I'm really sorry, but you won't be getting that back anytime soon. Okay, so let's take a look at what's been hitting the sporting headlines this week as we take a look at what we call our top five. England staged a magnificent comeback to beat World Cup holders Germany as manager Roy Hodgson's new breed excelled in Berlin. Germany looked to have spoiled a promising England display with goals either side of the interval, but goals from Eric Dyer, Jamie Vardy and Harry Kane ensured England took home a famous victory in Germany. Stoke goalkeeper Jack Butland has confirmed he will miss Euro 2016 after fracturing his ankle in Saturday's 3-2 victory. He will have an operation this week after hurting himself moments before conceding Germany's opener. The player was in tears as he was taken off on a stretcher. And sticking with England's theme, England manager Roy Hodgson insists captain Wayne Rooney is still a major part of his Euro 2016 plans. Even though his side beat World Cup holders Germany without him, the Manchester United forward is sidelined with a knee injury and will be a pundit for ITV during England's game against Holland. But there's no doubt that England was the main feature in the headlines this week, but boxing wasn't far behind, was it, Soph?
It certainly wasn't, Kiri. Chris Eubank Jr. produced a dominant display to defeat Nick Blackwell to win the British middleweight title. The fight was halted in the 10th round due to a swelling of Blackwell's left eye. Blackwell then subsequently collapsed in the ring and was rushed to hospital. Everyone, obviously, from Box to Box wishes Nick a very speedy recovery. Another big fight of the weekend was Kell Brook stopping mandatory challenger Kevin Bizier in less than 2 rounds. The IBF welterweight champion produced a powerful performance. Also on that card, Olympic gold medalist Luke Campbell needed just 2 rounds to finish off Gary Sykes.
It certainly was a busy week all round for sports. But Kevin, welcome along. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, thanks.
Now let's get straight down to that Nick Blackwell fight.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you've been in fairly similar situations.
Yeah.
That is quite a shame for the sport to have something like that happen.
It is. It's an hard sport, you know, and things happen. But like, you could say various things on them. Things people saying it should have been stopped earlier. Chris Eubank Senior, obviously going in and saying the things that he said, saying don't give any more blows to the head. Yeah. Was that the right thing to do? Should he have interfered in that way? I just think he was giving good advice. I think he's been in situations where he's hurt people before, and it's a very tough sport. People do get hurt, and he gives good advice to his son, what he knew, how it made him feel when he hurt somebody. So I think he just gave him nice advice. And yeah. I thought when I heard him say that, I was really happy that he said that.
Do you think it should have, in your opinion, do you think, because there is a bit of a debate going on at the moment,
yeah.
Do you believe it should have been stopped earlier, or was the referee and Blackwell's corner in the right position? I mean, he was throwing back a few punches, wasn't
being in the corner and being a fighter, you never give up. You've seen my face in various fights, so I didn't look far different from that. And you don't give up, you never give up.
So he wouldn't have wanted it to be stopped
anyway?
No,
never in a million years would he want it to be stopped, and his corner wouldn't have wanted it either. But the referee was just letting it go, and the referee did have no idea that he was going to get hurt like that. The referee 100% wouldn't have allowed that. If he knew he was going to get hurt like that, it wouldn't have happened.
But from a fighter's point of view, because obviously we saw Chris Eubank, he knew more perhaps the situation than maybe a referee. From your point of view, you know, were you watching it think stop it, or were you?
I'd like to have stopped a couple of rounds, 2 or 3 rounds before.
Okay, yeah.
It was never. So the thing is, when you're in fight side and you're taking the beating like that, unless it's an even Stevens fight and you're going back together, but he's never going to get nothing from it other than
so
more.
There's no need to carry on the rounds anyway.
No, I thought it was getting more and more.
Well, talking about you, you were a fighter for 22 years.
Yep.
You were in 3 world title fights. You've recently retired.
Yep.
How hard was it? You know, the ultimate dream, you were literally one of the country's most popular boxers, and you never quite reached the dream of winning that world title.
Yeah.
How hard was it to make the decision of retiring without achieving that goal?
It killed me, but to be fair, I was in the gym one day and I was training on the bag and I wasn't enjoying dieting. I was walking, I was like 11 stone 3, hence I'm now 12 stone. I have to go down to 9 stone 9 as a joke. Like, I was thinking, I'm not enjoying it. I knew my trainer wasn't I knew my trainer could tell that I wasn't enjoying it
Tony
anymore.
Sims.
Tony Sims, and basically I come in on a Monday after that Friday. The Friday I really wanted to give up during training. I just said, Tony, have a chat with you. I don't fancy it no more. And I had to think about it over the weekend. Normally I just do things off the spur of the moment, but it took me the whole weekend to think about it. It's been a 22-year career. It's been very hard, you know, and yeah, I didn't get a shot. I didn't get to win the world title, but I had fun.
Talk us through your highlights, though. You had an amazing career, and you were involved in some Fight of the Year contest. Talk us through your highlights.
I won Fight of the Year 3 times. Battles, I was known for being exciting. The crowds, I pulled in big crowds. West Ham was always.
We'll talk about West Ham in just a moment.
And,
definitely bring that up.
So it's like nice. I was always exciting, so hence that's why we sold out arenas and that, and people come to watch me. And I was always happy with that. I've always stayed normal in my ways. And what some of my highlights were, even as a kid, I won 4 national schoolboy titles 4 years running. I was the 10th in history to ever do that. I won the senior ABAs at the early age of 18 when everyone was depressed with saying I shouldn't have ever been in them. Then I turned professional at 18 when they were saying I was too young to turn professional at 18, which is a very young age now. Guys turn pro more like 24s, 25s, and I turned pro straight away. I suppose like the Cole Jennison fight was a big night. West Ham football ground also was a good night. Yeah.
So let's talk about West Ham for a minute then. West Ham having the season of their lives at the moment, could potentially have Champions League football. These two literally cause so much trouble. They can't wait for Arsenal not to have Champions League football. As a West Ham fan, life is good right now.
Yeah, we're flying. It's the best I've ever known since I've been a baby. You know, as a kid, my dad was a mad Patriot or West Ham fan, crazy on it. So as kids have grown up, it was like you put a T-shirt on West Ham straight away.
Just used to losing as well most of the
time.
Yeah,
that's what it was as a kid, and that's what it was like as a kid. I was always strong. We could be 2-3-0 up, and you never trust us. And as you get older and older, but now I feel we're flying in. We're doing really well.
You're a point off 4th, Man City.
Yeah, we're doing really well.
It is so achievable, and I'm really sorry about the Chelsea the penalty.
So if I will cheer your love on set.
Do you know what? We've been talking about this, Emma. Have we not been talking about this? Literally, this girl will talk about Chelsea.
Cheers, everyone.
She's going to shoehorn it in wherever she possibly
can. And Troy, we will talk about Spurs in a minute. We will talk about England in a minute. But let's just talk about. I know it's a good job these two at least like the same team. But in terms of a club, I know we're seeing greatness from Leicester, we're seeing greatness from Spurs. But actually, West Ham really are doing great stuff as well.
It's phenomenal. I think this season, the Premier League, it really has. I think for a neutral football fan or for fans of other clubs lower down,
a football fan, right?
A football fan. It's become. It's like a dream season because you've got teams who you could never have anticipated being thereabouts, you know, smashing it at the top of the league. Like you've mentioned Leicester, Tottenham, West Ham, like the natural order of things, you know.
Finally,
your Man United, your Man Cities, your Arsenals, your Chelseas. Sorry, Sophia.
I know, it's being, not mentioned in the top.
It's being broken, and that's actually a really good thing to see because constant dominance from the same 4 or 5 teams is no good for the game. It's no good for the game.
Say what secret West
Ham?
Went a little bit too far with that.
I was about to say, the only way I'm going to be backing West Ham is if you can remove Arsenal from the top 4.
Do you think they can?
I think they can.
No.
I think they can.
Either way, I know that we're a big, you know, we want to. I realistically think I know that we love Spurs, Leicester. These guys can do it. Arsenal still are a strong team, and they are okay. They aren't where they should be, but they're certainly
starting to grind out results again, aren't they?
And they do. When it counts, they generally lose when it counts, but then they've got that little extra when it counts as well.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see now what happens because, you know, everybody's momentum is going to be a bit distorted now because we've had this international break, you know, 2 really big games. Everyone's got to kind of then pick themselves up, get back into the routine of like the actual running now, the final 7 games. It's going to be really interesting to see how everybody responds to having had that break, and that goes for Leicester and Spurs as well as Arsenal.
Now let's talk about Mark Noble, Troy. It seems so unfair, and it isn't just us that say this. It is every single other journalist, pundit out there. Why is he not getting selected? And there are people that are getting selected that potentially, Wiltshire, maybe there's people out there that should have perhaps been left out this time.
Well, I think he definitely deserves a chance. If you think of the surgence of West Ham, Mark has been pivotal behind that as well. And I think he's a one club man who has driven that club forward, as well as, you know, the likes of Payet and Antonio that have done really well. I think Noble has been the one that has been there, the mainstay, and he has driven that club forward. And you know, with the 2 internationals that we've just had, it would have been really good to have seen if he can pit his wits at that level.
There's no actual reason why. I mean, he should have at least been. This was the time. These are what friendlies are for, aren't they? We expect to see these players.
Oh, definitely. And you look at the England game we just had. The youth that was coming through as well. They're mixed with experience. I think is a really key attribute for the Euros.
For me, it's a no-lose situation.
Yeah,
you know, you bring him in for the 2 games. He might start one of them and doesn't play in the other one. That's fine. You know, you look at him like they're looking at Drinkwater, and you think to yourself, well, can he do it at this level?
Drinkwater's got out of it. Now, as a West Ham fan, it must be, because I know we're seeing Spurs and we're seeing such greatness from other teams being allowed to come through into the England squad. As a West Ham fan, you must be thinking,
he should be allowed. You know, he's so passionate. He's done so well for West Ham this season. He's been unbelievable, to be fair. I think he's been the backbone of the team. He's been strong every game, and he gives it his all. I think in his passion, I think you should see that side of him. I think he
deserves the chance.
Deserves it, and it'd be the same for England.
I mean, I think it's immensely frustrating. It's like, you know, you touched on Wiltshire there, and I don't want to necessarily go after him per se.
No, exactly, because everybody should have their opportunity.
But, you know, Hodgson's already said that if Wiltshire can get fit before the Euros, he'll pick him, even though he hasn't kicked a ball in anger all season. And then you've got him being picked ahead of somebody like Noble, who has been phenomenal for West Ham.
I think being picked ahead of anybody. I think if you've been out all season...
But so is this about the... OK, so we've seen Spurs, and we'll talk about the 4 that really were the game changer. But is it because he's still not from a named club? Because I still think there is a mild amount of bias. If you're not from one of the big named clubs, you're getting overlooked.
Why is Drinkwater in there then? Drinkwater is in on his quality. Vardy is in on his quality.
What is it about Noble that's just getting overlooked?
I really don't know, and only the England manager and his team could answer that.
I mean, I think that's the thing. I think Hodgson's the only one that can answer it, because I don't think anyone reasonably can look at it.
We'll get him on the next show. Yeah, we'll get him on the next show.
Kevin's got a word for you.
Be afraid, Roy. Be afraid.
But I don't think we can use that as an excuse anymore, because West Ham are in and around the Champions League places for a reason. They have been consistent this season. They've played some exciting football. You know, so why would you not look at that club, and not just Nolan? You've got Creswell at left back. You've got Antonio flying down the wing. You've got very, very strong performances from England players. So
exactly.
English players.
Well, we'll come back to this in just a minute. We've got so much more after the break. We've got an Anthony Joshua video that Sophia filmed a little bit earlier on. So stick with us. We'll be back very shortly.